Little warning before we start. There is medical emergencies in this chapter that are detailed, so if that bothers you, please click away. Hello everyone, today is chapter 3 of The Homeless Vigilante. Hope you enjoy. The drive back to UA in Aizawa's unmarked sedan was dead silent, save for the ragged, shallow breathing coming from the back seat. Nightfall lay curled on his side, wrapped in a thick survival blanket Aizawa kept in the trunk. His body was completely spent, but his mind was trapped in a hyper-vigilant panic. His eyes were darting frantically to the passing street lamps outside the window. Suddenly, the boy's breathing hitched. A sharp, wet gasp echoed in the confined space of the car. Aizawa glanced in the rear-view mirror. Nightfall's posture had changed from a defensive curl into a terrifying, unnatural straight line. Recognizing the signs of an impending medical crisis, Aizawa immediately jerked the steering wheel, pulling the car abruptly to the curb. The hazard lights had begun to blink rhythmically. Casting an eerie orange glow against the dark Musutafu street. Hey, stay with me, Aizawa said, shifting into park. Before he could even unbuckle his seatbelt, Nightfall's body went completely rigid. His jaw clenched so tightly his teeth ground audibly against each other, and his fingers clawed uselessly at the leather seat. The massive neural overload from his earlier overexertion had finally pushed his brain over the edge, triggering a violent conscious seizure. Aizawa jumped out of the driver's seat and threw the back door open. The sight inside made the underground hero grimace. Unlike a typical grand mal seizure where the patient loses awareness, Nightfall's eyes were wide open. They were entirely bloodshot. The blood vessels in his cilia, that's not how you say that, but I don't know how to say it, ruptured from the controlled cranial pressure. His pupils were dilated into tiny pinpricks, staring directly at Aizawa with absolutely unadulterated terror. He was completely conscious, fully aware, and trapped inside a body that was firing agonizing electrical storms through every single nerve ending. He could feel every single spasm, but he had zero control over them. His limbs began to jerk and convulse violently, his tape boots hammering a frantic, erratic rhythm against the floorboards. Look at me, concentrate on my voice, breathe if you can, Aizawa commanded. His voice was tight, but firm, controlled, a practiced anchor in the chaos. He didn't try to forcibly restrain the boy's flailing limbs. He knew from the clinic's file that forcing his frayed muscle fibers down would only cause deeper, permanent tissue tearing. Instead, Aizawa gently wedged his folded capture scarf beneath the boy's head to protect it from slamming against the hard plastic of the doorframe. He cleared away stray bottles and loose paper from the seat, quickly turning Nightfall fully onto his side to keep his airway clear. Almost immediately, a thick trail of heavy, dark blood began to leak from the boy's nose. The non-fatal hemorrhaging triggered in the tandem with the massive neural spike. Nightfall let out a muffled strangle cry through his locked jaw. The sheer agony of the phantom mutilation was setting in. His brain was falsely registering the intense friction of the seizure as if his whole entire body was being cut and burned. To make matters worse, his quirk responded to his panic. The umbral tether broke free from his subconscious, completely out of control. Nightfall's shadow flickered and thrashed wildly across the ceiling of the car, throwing phantom, jagged spikes of hardened darkness. Crack. The shadow construct struck the inner roof, but the vehicle's bright light cut right through them. The bright light triggered his surface skin peeling drawback. Underneath his tattered hoodie, the skin on Nightfall's shoulder began to blister and peel. sending a fresh wave of agonizing neural feedback straight to his brain. Every time a shadow broke against the light, his body convulsed harder, locking him in a cruel, closed loop of self-inflicted torture. Shutting it down right now, as always said, his tone dropping into a deep, gravelly tone. He flared his eyes, the brilliant, glowing red light of his erasure quirk filling the back seat of the sedan. His long black hair floated upwards, defying gravity, as he locked his gaze onto the trembling boy. The effect was instantaneous. The chaotic, thrashing shadows vanished into nothingness. Without the constant, agonizing feedback loop of the umbral tether, the violent spasms began to slow. The rigid tension in Nightfall's spine snapped, turning into heavy, exhausted tremors. Nightfall slumped back against the seat, wheezing heavily as the air finally rushed back into his starved lungs. Tears mixed with the dark blood on his face, cutting clean lines through the grime on his cheeks. He was completely paralyzed now by the muscle fiber fraying, entirely spent, but his bloodshot eyes still held that terrifying conscious awareness as he looked up at the hero. As Aizawa reached over, gently using a clean cloth from his first aid kit to wipe the blood from the boy's upper lip and nose, he kept his quirk active, refusing to blink, ensuring the boy's power stayed locked away where it couldn't hurt him anymore. "You're okay," Aizawa whispered, his voice unusually soft as he kept his red eyes locked onto the boy. "The neural loop is over. The shadows are gone. Just breathe. I've got you." Nightfall's chest rose and fell in ragged gasps. He couldn't speak, his vocal cords deadened by the temporary neural burnout. But the sheer panic in his eyes slowly began to give way to profound exhaustion. Aizawa carefully closed the rear door, walking back to the driver's seat, and slammed his foot on the gas. The sedan surged forward into the night. Recovery Girl needed to be standing at the entrance of the UA gates the exact second they arrived, because Nightfall was running out of time.